mentioned a few times now that I tend to prefer the Mr. Men books that have a strong message in, something for children to learn. But I also realise that there are a lot of great Mr. Men books and Little Miss books, like Mr. Silly, where there's not really a strong message, but it is fun, it's interactive, it's something that children can really thoroughly enjoy reading or listening to, and can get them to take a deeper interest in literature. And that in itself is something that I really support. And that's what we get with Mr. Silly. We learn straight away that Mr. Silly is a very silly Mr. Man. He lives in Nonsense Land, and I have to say, I love that tree. I love the colours. And there are all kinds of nonsense things like dogs wearing hats, birds flying backwards. And this takes place around the time of a competition where everybody in the town is set about, the king has set about awarding this nonsense cup to whoever has the silliest invention, the silliest idea. And we see all these inventions from people in the town coming up with ideas for things that are unusual. For example, a square apple. Mr. Silly, and I rather like this, I like what they did here. I will tell you what Mr. Silly came up with. Mr. Silly came up with the idea of a green tree. And I just love that, because to us as the reader, to the young child reading this, that's not silly at all. That's how things are. And I love that in Nonsense Land, things that are commonplace to us are considered bizarre. And I just think that that's something a lot of young children will enjoy. Not sure why everybody there is a human character apart from Mr. Silly, but I thought it was a very clever thing to do. They could have come up with an outrageous invention. By they, I mean Roger Hargreaves. But actually having something that's everyday to us was very effective, and it can encourage children to come up with their own silly ideas, to have a lot of fun with some of the quirky characters and characteristics in this. So while I may prefer the ones with messages and important morals, books like Mr. Silly are good fun, can encourage children to take an active interest in literature. I remember it from my childhood, not massively well. Reading as an adult, not everything came flooding back to me, but I certainly remember liking the character. And needless to say, Mr. Silly is a pretty good book.